Chapter 15-16 Three Pillars. Tenshugu. In the daytime, the lights in the house were dim, and the tradition of lighting candlesticks was still preserved in the temple. The evil boy squatted on the ground barefoot, opened his big eyes with more white than pupil, and studied a book in a trance. This is an ancient book, written in traditional Chinese characters, a linear version. You can see the words Xinxue written on the cover. He bit his fingers, and his big eyes rolled from one line to the next. It's amazing! In the ancient times of Huashu country, there were such powerful aliens. This guy is too talented. It turns out that things like superpowers can be understood in this way. Interesting, it's so interesting. Xinxue gave him the inspiration to become stronger and made him understand how to obtain the power of aliens. How to make himself stronger and stronger. At this time, in the corner of the temple, the space was strangely distorted. Three figures in black robes appeared there. Huh? What are you doing here? The evil boy turned his head and stared at the three black shadows and asked faintly. A shadow said, "The enemy is coming. Be careful." Another shadow said, "Edo is our foundation. Protect it. Don't let anyone destroy it." The third shadow said, "Now, we can't help you. That guy seems to have noticed us." The expression on the face of the evil boy soon became happy when he heard it. "That's great. I haven't met a decent opponent for a long time." He bit his slender fingers hard, and it made a crunching sound, as if he wanted to bite off his fingers and swallow them. "Huan Dun from Huashu country, huh? Interesting," he said, and took out an intelligent device from the messy pile of books next to him, and then opened the file inside. A blue projection was projected into the air, and Zhang Yi's face suddenly appeared in front of him. Huan Dun, a space-based ability user. Ability code, Absolute Defense. He is good at using space defense to restrain physical attacks. And he has a strong ability to escape. The smile on the corner of the evil boy's mouth became even stronger. Very good at defense and escape? Haha, this is so interesting. He turned his head and looked at the three black shadows. "Hey, is there any way to prevent him from escaping from Edo?" A black shadow said, "Not difficult. The way to deal with space-related aliens is to block the space." The second black shadow said, "We will trap him in Edo. Then we will hunt him down." The third black shadow said, "This is your home ground. You are immortal. There is plenty of time. Strangle him as much as you want." The evil boy raised his head. "Well, let's wait quietly for the hunter to take the baits." Zhang Yi led everyone across Edo City and came to the huge immortal mountain. The towering mountain is an active volcano, which has been dyed pure white under the extreme cold. Zhang Yi looked at the mountain from a distance and said to Deng Shintong and others around him, "Let's start." Deng Shintong, Liang Yu, and others nodded, and then ran in the direction of both sides without hesitation. As the highest combat power, Zhang Yi will definitely attract the attention of the opponent once he takes action, so he cannot hide his whereabouts. Therefore, in this battle, he will be the main attacker and face the strongest alien in the Yumal court. Deng Shintong and others will be responsible for clearing the miscellaneous soldiers and taking the opportunity to kill the immortal mountain and snatch the target. Only Mu Yan, Yang Xinxin, and Huahua were left beside Zhang Yi. After Liang Yu and others left, Zhang Yi stood a few kilometers away from the immortal mountain and raised his right hand towards the active volcano. Such a fair and above-board appearance has already attracted the attention of the aliens in the Yumal court. Dozens of aliens in the Yumal court flashed and attacked.
"Who are you?
How dare you come here?
Do you want to die?"
Zhang Yi didn't even look at them. Huahua's body suddenly became huge and transformed into a giant alien beast dozens of meters long. The black hair all over its body stood up and turned into sharp spikes. In an instant, it turned into a torrential rain and shot at the aliens in the Yumal court. Those aliens had no time to dodge. Even if some people quickly used their abilities to resist, these actions were meaningless in the face of the absolute gap in strength. Puff. Puff, 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 puff. The moment they landed, they were pierced by Huahua's spikes. Their death was extremely miserable. In the castle palace, The evil boy suddenly opened his eyes and stared into the distance.
He's coming.
He. Zhang Yi gently clenched his right hand in midair, and the next moment, the sky above the immortal mountain darkened. A dark vortex slowly appeared, and then became huge at a terrifying speed, and finally formed a dark cave that almost covered the immortal mountain. Descent. Dark stars. The power of the void emerged from the black hole, transformed into dark and dazzling stars, and then landed directly. In the castle palace, the three major cadres saw this scene and showed serious expressions on their faces. Such a terrible power, how strong is this guy? Ming Hai Zongji murmured. What's the big deal? The evil boy had a faint smile on his face. Whether he can see me depends on whether he can pass the previous level. He raised a slender finger and pointed to the gate hall of the castle tower at the foot of the mountain. The dark stars fell towards the immortal mountain, and soon the aliens on the mountain tried their best to resist the invasion of this power. Various barriers began to appear, and even defensive aliens began to join forces to use their supernatural powers to set up a huge barrier. However, when the dark stars fell, everything disappeared, and a large number of aliens in the demon court were dissolved without even having time to scream. Until the power of the void was about to engulf the castle tower, a figure in a black robe emerged from the top of the palace. His hands were placed in the air up and down, and the distorted dark light flashed by, and a black bronze mirror appeared. The light of the mirror spread out with him as the center, protecting the area around the castle tower. Without Zhang Yi's awareness, an invisible barrier rose from the eastern area of Edo Castle, the former site of Sensoji Temple, and slowly covered the sky of Edo. Zhang Yi looked at the huge alien beast behind him and smiled. Hua Hua. Force them to show up. Roar, Hua Hua. Looked up at the immortal mountain in the distance, opened his bloody mouth, and a terrifying blood-colored energy was condensing. Boom! A huge beam of supernatural power light blasted out in an instant, heading straight for the castle palace on the immortal mountain. Chapter 15-17 Terra Massacato. Hua Hua's attack was very terrifying. Now, its comprehensive ability index was as high as 13,000 points. With one blow, it could collapse the top of a mountain. But before this force could reach the castle, a twisted barrier suddenly appeared in front of it, blocking all of Hua Hua's power. A hazy mist began to spread from the immortal mountain, and everything around was confused and invisible. In the mist, a huge palace quietly appeared, blocking Zhang Yi and Hua Hua. Compared with the castle on the immortal mountain, this palace was older and larger, but it was filled with a gloomy, ghostly aura. Zhang Yi had already opened the barrier of all things, and the prediction ability of tracing all things was always turned on to prevent any accidents. But soon, the gray smoke passed them and spread to the entire Edo city. Zhang Yi suddenly realized something and looked up. The sky of Edo was quickly shrouded by the smoke and fell into the night. Could it be? Zhang Yi turned his head and looked at Edo City. At this time, Edo Castle had fallen into a dead silence, and those huge ghosts appeared in the fog. The so-called night parade of 100 demons is indeed a man-made thing. Can even the conditions of this dark night be created? Zhang Yi laughed self-deprecatingly. They deliberately chose to attack during the day, and it seemed that there was not much point. However, these things no longer mattered. Since they decided to go to war, they were ready to deal with all kinds of changes. The demons behind them were shouting louder and louder, and the ghosts and monsters began to attack the immortal mountain. Zhang Yi said to Hua Hua, Hua Hua, go and hold those guys back. He had seen the strength of these ghosts and monsters. The most troublesome thing was that they could not be killed, but their strength was not too strong. With Hua Hua's strength, it was no problem to hold them back for a while. Roar! Hua Hua turned around without saying a word and sprayed a high-energy particle ray at the demons that attacked along the ghost fog. The shot passed like a scalpel, cutting large tracts of demons in half, dividing the land into two parts, and forming an insurmountable boundary. Zhang Yi looked at the ancient palace that suddenly appeared in front of him, raised his hand, and used his ability. God's domain purification. The terrifying pressure instantly pressed towards the ancient palace, but the expected scene of blasting a road did not appear. The palace seemed to be protected by an invisible force, making it difficult to harm its foundation. If you don't respect the gods, you can't pass. A ghostly voice came from the front. Zhang Yi looked up and saw a guy covered in a black robe standing on the top of the palace. God?
Huh?
Zhang Yi laughed disdainfully. In a ghost place like Neon, even a little ghost in charge of the toilet can call himself a god. Your gods are too cheap. The sword in the tree in his right hand condensed into shape. Facing the object whose ability he didn't know, he planned to destroy it simply and rudely. The sword was thrust directly into the ground. The next moment, a huge forest of 5 or 6 meter thick vines suddenly rushed out from the ground, and then quickly spread in all directions, engulfing the ancient temple in front of him. The area of the forest was expanding at a speed visible to the naked eye, and it even gave people a feeling that if its momentum could not be curbed in time, the entire immortal mountain would be completely submerged. Seeing that the temple was about to be completely engulfed, the ancient black door slowly opened with its creak. A purple mist spread out from behind the door, and a pair of big hands wearing black gloves opened the door and drilled out of the temple. The huge body was much taller than the door of the temple, more than 30 meters. It was a headless giant ghost, wearing black and red plate armor from the Neon Warring States period. Although it had no head, it still wore a devil helmet. There was only a ball of black smoke on the head, and 2 balls of red light flashed strangely. Ghost, Terra Masakato. Facing the huge forest that was swallowing up the trees, Ping Jungman pulled out a huge samurai sword and slashed it forward fiercely. With just one strike, the primitive forest that grew out of the sword in the tree was completely shattered. The moment the headless ghost appeared, Zhang Yi found that the scene around him had changed completely. Red torii spread towards Zhang Yi, forming an infinite corridor in an instant. The surrounding space had become empty, leaving only endless darkness. Interesting, it can actually drag me into such a strange place. Is it another ability of the role system? Or is it a special field created? Illusion. The sword in the tree in Zhang Yi's right hand condensed into the shape of a long sword, and the myriad things protected his body, and all things followed the traces and locked onto Ping Jungman in front of him. He took out the pistol Bai Xiao with his left hand, aimed a holy silver bullet at Ping Jungman and shot it. Clang! With the blessing of the power of space, the holy silver bullet was extremely fast and reached Ping Jungman in an instant. However, Ping Jungman's knife was faster, and he actually flicked the bullet away with one knife. The nuclear power contained in the holy silver bullet exploded in the distance, setting off a terrifying storm. Seeing this, Zhang Yi pulled the trigger again and fired 3 bullets at Ping Jungman's torso. Ping Jungman held the knife in both hands and suddenly lowered his body toward Zhang. He rushed over at high speed. He chopped down the 3 bullets in front of him with his backhand. However, just when his blade was about to hit the bullets, the 3 bullets disappeared in midair. When they reappeared, they actually passed over Ping Jungman's knife and went straight to his chest. As long as you predict the opponent's movements while the bullets are flying and use the dimensional gate to change the trajectory of the bullets. This is called gun fighting, a very practical short-range gun technique, fate and reincarnation. 3 bullets hit Ping Jungman's body in a simple and unpretentious manner. The special material that can break the magic plus the nuclear power instantly produced a terrifying explosion. Even the ancient ghost body wearing heavy armor was hit and retreated 5 or 6 steps. No penetration? Interesting, I didn't expect that there are other Epsilon-level beings on the Immortal Mountain. But is this guy also a member of the Night Parade of 100 Demons? Zhang Yi did not hesitate at all and launched his most powerful instant skill. In his eyes, the white light twisted, and the surrounding void was also deformed strangely. An invisible force twisted the entire space, including Terra Masakato, and squeezed it into a ball. Divine Domain Purification. Terra Masakato's armor broke with a crack, revealing a skeleton with black flames burning inside. This was an ancient undead, and now only a huge skeleton was left. The powerful force twisted his body and almost shattered it. Chapter 15-18 Falling from the Sky. Zhang Yi is no longer the alien who is only good at defense. After reaching the level of Black Chariot, his attack ability has been greatly improved. Even the ancient ghosts and gods who have revived in front of him can hardly withstand his powerful attack. Above the temple, the Black Shadow who planned everything flashed a look of astonishment in his eyes. This guy has reached such a level. It seems that the information from the demon court is wrong. He realized this at the first time, but unfortunately it was too late. The white owl in Zhang Yi's left hand shot bullets continuously like a torrential rain. No matter how fast Ping Zhengman's knife is, it can't turn at the moment of swinging the knife to resist the bullets that have changed their trajectory.
Boom. Boom.
Boom. Continuous explosions sounded on him, and followed by the second divine domain purification disaster. Hua-la-la. His skeleton was directly dismantled and scattered all over the ground. Zhang Yi did not dare to be careless at all, because according to his experience, this kind of ghost will be revived. As he expected, not long after, the pile of skeletons on the ground began to stir. Zhang Yi just raised his eyes and looked at the huge temple in front of him and the black shadow on the temple. The existence of infinite resurrection must have its source. Is it this guy? Or... Zhang Yi put away the sword in the tree and turned it into a bracelet on his wrist again. Then he took out 2 white owls. The terrifying void power appeared behind him, and a huge dark vortex spiraled and grew larger and finally hovered behind him like a huge black sun. The powerful void energy surged up his body like a black tide and gathered into the double guns along his arms. The silver-gray pistol turned pure black, and the dark brilliance would make people feel fear from the bottom of their hearts at a glance. When the accumulated void energy reached a critical point, the 2 guns merged together and issued a shocking blow. Halberd of Destruction. The triggers in their hands were pulled at the same time, and a huge black war halberd spurted out from the muzzle and rushed straight to the ancient temple in front. This blow even changed the look of the shadow above the temple. Humanity, have you evolved to this point? It is worthy of being the masterpiece of the 6th generation. Boom! In an instant, the dark void war halberd had crashed into the temple, and the darkness enveloped the entire space, causing cracks in this artificially created environment. The shadow's body began to become illusory. It's not the time yet, I can't show up. Let you be arrogant for once. The shadow twisted in the void and then disappeared. The next moment, Terra Masakato's body and the entire ancient temple were directly swallowed by the black war halberd. Crack. The surrounding space was like a mirror, cracking with spider web-like patterns, and then exploded. All the scenes disappeared, and what Zhang Yi saw was still the immortal mountain standing in front of him. And in all directions, the battle has begun. The falling stars made the immortal mountain riddled with holes, and the aliens of the Yumal court roared and rushed over from all directions. Behind him, the demons and monsters of the night parade of 100 demons were firmly blocked by Huahua's huge body, and they were not allowed to come to hinder Zhang Yi. Although these guys did not pose a threat to Zhang Yi, they were very troublesome. Especially the 3-headed Ghost King. If he attacked at the critical moment of Zhang Yi's duel, it might even cause a crisis for Zhang Yi. Zhang Yi looked up at the top of the immortal mountain, where the Tenshu Palace stood. The long bluestone steps led from the foot of the mountain to the top of the mountain, and the torii gates were on both sides of the steps. At this moment, Zhang Yi felt a gaze full of evil, staring at him from the top of the mountain. He knew who he met. Neon's most powerful alien, the master of the Yumal court, the evil boy. You're just in time. Let me see what level the strongest alien in Neon, who has been taught a lesson by me, is at now. The evil boy stood in front of the gate of the Tenshu Palace, followed by the 3 major cadres, Purgatory Star, Minghai Suji, and Maeda Yuichiro. In his eyes, there was only Zhang Yi at the foot of the mountain. Although they couldn't see him, the 2 of them could already feel each other's breath. A hideous smile appeared on his lips, and he said to the three people, "Some bugs have taken the opportunity to sneak up. Go and deal with those guys." He pointed down the mountain. "As for the opponent's general, leave it to me to deal with." The three people said in unison, "Yes." Immortal Mountain is their territory. If someone invaded, it would have been discovered by their scouts long ago. The three immediately locked their respective targets and led their men to hunt. The extremely evil boy bent his knees slightly, and the next moment, he flew out like a cannonball and fell heavily down the mountain. Found the target.
Locked.
The intelligence system of the Qianlong armor gave Zhang Yi a prompt, and the camera in the sky was instantly zoomed in, allowing him to see the skinny boy who didn't even have any protective gear on his body. He was not old, but the hideousness on his face was full of madness. If it were in the past, such a person would probably only be seen in a lunatic asylum. A target falling from the sky? Zhang Yi thought for a moment and took out the large sniper rifle Ali. After Yang Xinxin's modification, it is not an exaggeration to call it the world's #1 heavy sniper. Its power is enough to easily blow up a tiger without the blessing of superpowers. In Zhang Yi's hands, its power is so terrifying that opponents of Gao Changkong and Lancelot are afraid. Zhang Yi raised the heavy sniper in his hand and aimed at the evil boy who fell from the sky. The powerful void superpowers gathered in the energy storage compartment. When the energy bar was full, a bullet was fired at the body of the evil boy with a deafening roar. In an instant, the bullet wrapped in terrifying power hit the evil boy. But the expected scene of the evil boy's body being blown to pieces did not appear. Zhang Yi saw a scene that surprised him through the lens zoomed in by the intelligence system. The large bullet was actually bitten by the evil boy with his teeth. Green smoke came out of his mouth, his eyes were full of madness, and the smile on the corner of his mouth seemed to be mocking Zhang Yi's useless attack. Zhang Yi's eyes became more solemn. Even Lancelot didn't dare to take a shot head-on. But the evil boy in front of him was able to bite it directly with his teeth. This terrifying defense can be said to be the only one Zhang Yi has ever seen in his life. Is he a reinforcement-type alien? Zhang Yi knew very little about the evil boy, because this guy had a very short time in Neon's rise and had no record of any external wars. Of course, the evil boy didn't know much about Zhang Yi either. So, in the initial confrontation stage, the most important thing for both sides was still to obtain intelligence from each other. Chapter 15:19, Let's Go to War. Zhang Yi didn't stop after failing to hit him. It must be confirmed whether the opponent's defense ability is a one-time one or a basic attribute ability. So Zhang Yi kept pulling the trigger, firing bullet after bullet at the evil boy. The bullets that could easily destroy the warship were all caught by the evil boy, and without exception, he used his teeth. The evil boy's body fell rapidly, and the distance between him and Zhang Yi was only about 200 meters. His body appeared a strange red color, as if it was boiled in boiling water, and a hot air flow gushed out of his mouth. The madness in his eyes became more and more intense. He fell down towards Zhang Yi without any deceleration, using his head and feet up. Zhang Yi frowned, without dodging or evading, because there was no need to evade at all. His most powerful means of defense is always his different dimension space. Sunluo Wanxiang. The 3,000-dimensional gates were rearranged and combined, forming dozens of dimensional barriers in front of him. Once the evil boy falls into the dimensional gate, he will be trapped directly. Zhang Yi wanted to see what exactly this guy's ability was. The evil boy did not slow down. The speed of free fall was too fast. The moment the door opened, he seemed to realize what appeared in front of him. But he did not change at all, and fell straight into the other dimension. Huh. Zhang Yi was a little surprised, and instantly closed the door of the dimensional gate, wanting to trap the evil boy inside. However, after the door was closed, only 2 seconds later, a terrifying energy exploded from the location of the door. Its power was so strong that even Zhang Yi was a little stunned. The power of this energy is not weaker than mine. How can Neon have this level of alien now? Zhang Yi did not think that Neon would have a powerful Epsilon. But according to his understanding, It would take a large area of Huashu country to cultivate an alien with an ability index of around 20,000 points. Neon has less than half the resources of a large region, and the Colombian Navy is plundering resources.
The
Newly emerged aliens can't be too strong. However, the evil boy only hit him with one blow, and he realized that his guess might be wrong. The horrible explosion directly destroyed one of Zhang Yi's dimensional gates. The evil boy appeared from the void and rushed to the back like a monkey. After his skinny body stood firm on the ground, he showed a hideous smile to Zhang Yi. The Lord of the Yumal Court, codenamed Shutenduji, a special alien. Ability index, unknown. It seems that there is no way to kill instantly. Zhang Yi twisted his wrist and said leisurely. With the direct confrontation between the two Ypsilons, the war around the Immortal Mountain officially kicked off. No one can interfere with a battle between Zhang Yi and the evil boy, but it does not mean that others are trash. The Yumal Court aliens who can stay in Edo are the elite among the elite. The order they received was to guard the Tianshou Palace while the evil boy was fighting and prevent others from invading. Deng Shintong and Liang Yu led everyone to the Tianshou Palace on the top of the mountain. At the end of the frost-covered forest was the towering palace. However, before they were halfway there, they felt something unusual in the forest. It was the sound of snowflakes falling. Liang Yu's ears moved. Someone is coming. There are a lot of them. It's just what we expected. Deng Shintong held the sword Griffith in his right hand and said calmly. Zhang Yi and Huahua had solved the biggest problem for them, which was the evil boy and the night parade of 100 demons. They had to walk the rest of the way by themselves. Uncle Yu stepped on the thick snow, and his heavy body made it very difficult to move forward in such a place. However, in the past few years, he had never slacked off in training, so he had enough means to deal with complex environments. He swept his eyes around, and in the dark night, he could vaguely see the approach of the wolves. Deng Shintong smiled and said, "Since we have been discovered, there is no need to hide." He raised his right hand, and a ball of energy quickly condensed in his palm, turning into a bright and tiny ball of light. He gently raised his hand, and the ball of light flew towards the sky, and finally quickly grew larger, suspended in the air, and turned into a bright moon. The bright white moonlight illuminated the Immortal Mountain. Looking around, they were already surrounded by dense crowds of people, all of whom were the aliens of the Demon Court. They were dressed in black suits, which was the usual dress of the neon underworld, and everyone's face was filled with undisguised murderous intent. Fatty Sue took a breath. There are at least 500 or 600 people. And we, he counted on his fingers, are less than 10 at most. Uncle Yu smiled and turned his head and asked, "What's wrong? Fatty Sue, are you scared again?" "It's okay." Fatty Sue squinted at him. "This kind of thing will be fine as long as you get used to it." He murmured in a low voice, "I have to learn to fight too. I can't always rely on the boss." People, only after experiencing the pain of losing others will you slowly learn to become stronger. Next time, Fatty Sue hopes that he will be able to protect others. Uncle Yu nodded with satisfaction. "That's right."
Zheng.
The dragon in Liang Yu's hand popped out half an inch, making a warning buzzing sound. She looked up and looked forward. There are powerful guys coming. Not only her, Bailey Chongqing and Wu Di and others all looked forward with serious eyes. Under the castle, 2 cadres of the Demon Court appeared there. The sword-wielding suit warrior Ming Haisuji, wearing gold-rimmed glasses and neatly combed bangs, Maeda Yuichiro. What a trouble! Maeda Yuichiro frowned and stared at Deng Shintong and others. After a few days of peace, we have to fight again. Naromi said lazily, "Peace needs to be protected by swords. So, let's fight." Naromi waved his hand vigorously around him. "Kill." The aliens in the Yuma court didn't waste words. Many people took out machine guns from their arms and fired at Deng Shintong and others. Huashi State has ammunition such as origin bullets and holy silver bullets to fight against aliens, as well as special weapons. There is naturally no shortage of such things abroad. Humans are always improving at an astonishing speed in terms of killing their own kind. Let's fight. Bai Chunyu put his hands together, and his superpowers surged rapidly, with his hair dancing in a mess. Fatty Su also activated his ability, Blizzard, without hesitation. The battle plan was already made at the beginning. The next moment, a huge storm centered on them was set off, sweeping towards the surroundings with a raging blizzard. Chapter 1520. Infinite Sword Domain. In the frozen world, the aliens of the ice and snow system are the pride of heaven. Because anytime and anywhere, there are geographical environments where they can easily exert their abilities. The surging storms swept around, instantly disrupting the formation of the aliens in the Yuma court. Catch the thief first. Blue thought smoke began to linger around Liangyu. Now that she was close to the Epsilon domain, her strength was getting stronger and stronger. In just a moment, she ran to a high place and went straight to Ming Haizongji and Maeda Yuichiro. Leave an opponent for me. Deng Shintong was also unwilling to fall behind. Now he and Liang Yu are the two major forces in the team. It is reasonable to confront the two cadres of the opponent. Almost subconsciously, Liang Yu chose the target of Ming Haizongji, the swordsman holding a samurai sword. Top warriors can always attract each other, and the crazy belief in martial arts can be understood with just one look. The moment their eyes met, Ming Haizongji was first surprised for a moment, and then his eyes were filled with ecstasy. There are such people in the world. Liang Yu's mouth curled up slightly, and he held down Long Ming with his right hand and drew his sword. Before the sword came out, Ming Haizongshi took the lead to retreat. He whispered, "Boundless sword domain." The next moment, the surrounding scene changed in an instant. It was no longer the immortal mountain covered with heavy snow, but a desolate and dilapidated ancient battlefield. A huge red moon stretched across the sky, shining on the bloody chaos of the entire battlefield. There were countless swords stuck on the ground, some stained with blood, some had already been broken, and some were bright, waiting for the owner of the sword to appear. Liang Yu frowned and looked forward. I saw Ming Haizongshi standing on a hill, with the samurai sword in his hand already drawn, pointing diagonally to the ground. Welcome to my domain. Once the boundless sword domain is opened, you must meet a condition to leave here. The sword in his hand pointed at Liang Yu. One person dies. Isn't this wonderful? No one will interfere with the duel of samurai glory. Liang Yu sneered. Just what I want. Blue energy flowed from her limbs and formed a circle of smoke around her. But in the eyes of Ming Haizongji, it was an extremely dangerous thing. Interesting, it's really interesting. This is my first time to fight against a Chinese warrior. The captain of the first team of the Yumading, Ming Haizongji, codenamed Ibaraki Duji, a strengthening ability user. The power index is 9,900 points. As soon as he finished speaking, he rushed towards Liang Yu like lightning. His fast figure set off a fierce gust of wind. The swords in the sword domain rose with the wind and were carried by him to stab Liang Yu. Liang Yu's expression was neither happy nor sad. She swung her sword to face the front and cut it down. The sword storm swept in, and in the eye of the storm was Ming Haizongji's famous sword, Kiku Ikamanji Norimyun. Around Ikamanji, there were countless sword blades. Liang Yu only had one sword, but her speed of drawing the sword was as fast as light and shadow. Clang, clang, clang. The swords collided crazily. Liang Yu broke countless swords with one move. However, Ming Haizongxi's sword was also very fast. After becoming an alien, the first priority for warriors is always to improve their physical fitness. This allows them to draw their swords at the fastest speed. In a sense, they are the most dangerous existence. Because as long as these guys get close enough, they can instantly kill the existence with a much higher ability index than them. Stabbing, hitting the body, and slashing the cassock, Ming Haizongxi's sword is extremely fast, and the offensive is uninterrupted after the two swords stick together. Liang Yu's Long Ming is a tang straight sword, with a heavy blade, which has an advantage in the process of collision. Facing Ming Haizongxi, Liang Yu's attack speed is not that fast, but her defense is still flawless. No matter how fast Ming Haizongxi's sword is, she can resolve it in time, and a backhand knife makes Ming Haizongxi terrified. The pressure of the straight sword is above the samurai sword. It is useless to be fast. The key is to kill with one blow. In terms of strength, Ming Haizongji was obviously inferior to Liang Yu's brute force. The swords collided, and each move was extremely dangerous. Liang Yu gradually adapted to Ming Haizongji's rapid attack and began to suppress him with his backhand. Zheng. Ming Haizongji turned around to avoid Liang Yu's long sword attack, and the battlefield behind him was directly split into a gully that stretched for thousands of meters. He quickly sheathed the sword, gathered his strength, and leaned over. In a flash, Kiku Ikemonji turned into a bright sword light and went straight to Liang Yu's neck. The speed of this sword was even faster than before. Liang Yu's sword was too old to resist, so he could only lean back and dodge the sword in the posture of a steel bridge. Swish! Several strands of hair were cut off by the samurai sword. Liang Yu turned over and chopped down with a straight sword. Ming Haizongji, who had already experienced Liang Yu's strength, did not dare to take this move head-on, and his body turned in the air to avoid it. The moment he landed, his left hand pulled out a knife from the ground. Liang Yu held the dragon roar in his hand, ready to go. I thought Ming Haizongji would change to a two-sword style attack, but I didn't expect that he would rush over with two swords in hand, and he actually. Along the way, he picked up one samurai sword after another, and the sword hit the blade and shot towards Liang Yu. In a flash, countless samurai swords flew into the air. Liang Yu backhanded and chopped off the samurai's sword flying towards him. The next moment, Ming Haizong came close to him with two swords in hand. 1,000 swords! He shouted in a deep voice and actually used the sword-offhand sword on Liang Yu at close range. The samurai's sword went straight to his face, and he caught another sword in the air very quickly, turned his body around, and used it to chop Liang Yu's shoulder. Looking at the flying samurai swords, Liang Yu finally realized what the sword domain of this guy was. Ming Haizong in front of him was simply a weapon master. Liang Yu and Ming Haizong, who were dragged into another space, fought fiercely, but the battle between warriors was the most dangerous, but it was the most difficult to determine the winner in a short time. Because the strengthening system is the most tenacious existence. Deng Shintong had no time to care about what was happening over there, but he believed that the most powerful alien around Zhang Yi would not be defeated easily. At this moment, he had already killed Maeda Yuichiro. No extra words were needed. Deng Shintong started with a killing move. Sword patterns were engraved in the void by him, and the next moment, multiple transparent mirrors completely surrounded Maeda Yuichiro. He stabbed with a sword, and Maeda Yuichiro dodged subconsciously. However, suddenly, there was a stabbing pain behind him. He looked back in astonishment and saw a hole in his lower back, and blood was flowing out. Deng Shintong's ability, Heaven Etching. Where did this attack come from? I didn't even notice it. Maeda Yuichiro's expression showed a moment of astonishment. But soon, a cold and cruel smile appeared at the corner of his mouth. Very good, this is interesting. You are qualified to see my other appearance. Dear viewers, thanks for staying tuned. Please like and subscribe if not already for more latest videos.